Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful Monday with us on Live with Lloyd. I'm your host, Lloyd Strayhorn, astronumerologist, on this Monday, the 26th of September. As you see, this month is almost, as they say, a wrap. Okay, October, this same time next year, we'll be into the month of October, no question, on the 3rd. Anyways, you see, I have a very, very distinguished guest. Uh, I know my show is about numerology, astrology, but I also incorporate other things too. Everything is relative. They say the knee bone is connected to the hip bone and all this other stuff, but it's kind of true that no matter what field you're in, numbers are involved, and such is the case of our distinguished guest, Jeffrey Maisonet, or Jeff. I'm going to call him Jeff in that sense. But before we start, as you know, I always do the forecast for today. All right. And on this 26th of the month, as you see, it is a Monday. The sun is in Libra. It is a new moon in Libra also. Although the moon went into Libra about a day and a half ago, technically, whenever the sun and the moon are in the same sign at the same time, it's considered a new moon phase. So it's the day of the new moon, and about several days after that, about 5 or 6 days after that. But anyway, Mercury's retrograde. So that means be careful what you say, how you say it, things of that nature. It's a 6 universal month, a 1 universal week, a 5 universal day. And if you happen to be an Aquarius or Capricorn or Libra, Virgo, or Gemini, or born on the 5th or the 8th, the 14th, the 17th, the 23rd, or the 26th of the month, well, this should be a very interesting day for you at all. Oh, and please like, share, and subscribe. One day it'll be such a habit, but right now I have to remind myself. So again, if you really like this show I do every Monday, Wednesday, please share, like with people. Please share it. And they say get the likes up. I have to thank some of the people that says, hey, get the likes up, things of that nature. So I guess it's very important from an algorithm point of view. My thing, as long as what I do helps my viewers, and this is many, many things to come. So anyway, hold on, let me get this out the way. Okay, let's see here. How are we going to do this? Okay, good. Here we go. And let me get this out the way. Sometimes I have to laugh at my own self. I'm doing the best I can, okay? Trust me on this. But the nice thing is, it's been a little over a year. You think I get it right, but hey, yo, I'm human. I'm not walking on water yet, so y'all got to work with me. Anyway, I'm going to bring on my very distinguished guest, a gentleman I was referred to. His name is Jeffrey Williams Maisonet. I just call him Jeff. If you don't mind, Jeff, I'll call you in that first name. First of all, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Again, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be on tonight. Um, I know it's a little bit out of your realm for what you usually do on YouTube, but I think I'm going to take it for all it's worth.
Everything is relative, Jeff. Everything is relative, my man, because no matter what you do, I tell people as a numerologist, imagine waking up in a world without numbers. How would you know what time it is to go to work, to go to an appointment, to whatever the case is? Each tooth in your mouth is assigned a number. What would they do in the world of sports if number disappeared? How could you tell what team won? How could you tell what the score is? To an athlete that's been on these franchises, their honor, especially in basketball, baseball, football, is to have their jersey number retired, where no matter, as long as the franchise exists, nobody can wear that number. So we're in the world of sports, and I can tell you this: when they talk about numbers, nothing is more predominant in numbers and statistics than the world of sports. And
Absolutely.
you have to be a bowler, but you're a most interesting bowler. But we're not going to tell everything yet. But let me ask you this: when we was talking earlier today, I was saying to you, is bowling, they have the rank of sports. What are the top sports in the United States, right? And I asked you, was bowling within the top 10? What was your response to that?
It actually it would fall in the top 10, and in the U.S. But we're on the very bottom of that top 10. I would say we're just about at the 10 spot. So we just got our way in there somehow, some way, and I think a lot of it has to do with just the recreational aspect of the sport. It's something that a lot of people in America enjoy to do on the weekends and during the nightlife. You go out, grab some friends, grab the family, and you go out and you just
And they
bowl.
say get some pizza or whatever the case is,
Yeah,
a couple
you
of
can trade.
brewskis, yeah, and relax. But what's interesting though, when I asked you the same question, well, where does bowling rank in the world? And what was your response?
It's actually ranked at a much higher number in other countries compared to the U.S. In Japan, it's actually rated the number three most popular sport in Japan. If you go over to my Norwegian friends over there, bowling is, if not arguably outside of ice hockey and curling, they love bowling just as much. And that side of Europe, Eastern Europe, they love bowling. Even in the Middle East, bowling has now transcended into something big now over there in Dubai and the United Emirates. So the sport is definitely growing worldwide, which is a very positive thing for us.
And like in all areas of sports, even bowling, there are numbers, okay? And although you said bowling is for recreation, bowling has been very serious for contests. Am I correct?
Hey, absolutely.
Get trophies where people get prize award money. And would I be correct in that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's also important to note that bowling has probably been around since the beginning of this time. Um, the sport is arguably started around 300 BC to 500 BC, and it was originated in Egypt. So
Excuse me. Are we surprised? Okay. All of this stuff. I'm just saying. I ain't trying to take nothing from nobody, but I'm not
right,
trying to take anything away from us too. So
absolutely,
I was going to ask, but I didn't want to get into the history. But the fact, because numerology is an ancient African science, astrology is an African ancient science, and science and religion and philosophy and medicine, all of it started out of Kemet or Egypt. So I don't know why people get so disconnected or discombobulated when we want to give credit where credit is due. You know what
correct.
I'm saying? So, what led you into bowling, my man?
Uh, Great question. It's been through my family since I will say three generations before me has been bowling. So, my mom was a great bowler. My grandfather was a great bowler. Even my dad, even before my grandfather, some of his brothers, which was be my great uncles and aunts. I even had some aunts who bowled as well. Definitely can't forget about the lady bowlers out there. There's a lot of great female bowlers out there in my family as well. So I don't want to forget them. So it's been a generational thing. It's something that we passed down from one generation to the next. Now I have a niece who's 9 years old, and now she wants to get into bowling. So she's going to be the next one in the family to continue. Even a nephew as well. Now I'm hearing. I mean, sorry, cousin. I have a cousin of mine too who's really young into bowling. So it seems like this is
Like
something.
in the blood. That's what.
Yeah, it's in the blood. I think this is just something that came natural for us.
Well, let me ask you this: is there a famous African American bowler, male or female, that has really shaken the bowling sports world up that we may not know about? Because I don't know, but I'm not a sports person. You see all
Okay.
these things behind me? That's me. I'm a reader. I'm kind of like, you know what I'm saying? So when it gets to the world of sports, about 2 to 3 minutes into a conversation, I don't know too much other than Steph Curry's birthday, LeBron birthday, so and so's birthday, but that's it.
Right.
Is there anyone that that's been a sleeper
I
in
wouldn't
sports?
say so much a sleeper. Well, okay, I can't be too biased, right? Because I'm in the sports realm of bowling, so I wouldn't know a lot of names. But maybe a lot of your audience wouldn't know who he is. But he's a very essential part to the sport, and that would be Earl Anthony, black professional bowler from the late '60s and '70s. He's pretty much transcended the sport in a lot of positive ways for myself, yourself, and many others are like me. Minorities, all other minority groups are included as well in this. He's taken the league by storm. back before it was called the PBA, which is the Professional Bowlers Association, as many of you probably seen on ESPN and Fox Sports. He was actually part of an organization that typically did not allow too many African Americans and other minority groups to compete, and that would be the ABC League in the 60s and 70s. That was very popular, which is the American Bowlers Congress. That was one of the first big professional leagues that we had in the U.S. that were competitive, and they were televised events.
What made him outstanding in that way that he would go down in the annals as an African American in the world of bowling?
The odds were pretty much stacked against him. I mean, he had very limited resources compared to his counterparts. He also had a talent that a lot of people to this day, even in the sport now with all the new technology we have, still can't match a lot of his accolades.
What was those talents that they could match? I mean, could you give us an example if you can?
I mean, using a rubber bowling ball, which is not even used anymore in the modern era today. A rubber bowling ball was something that was just a big piece of rubber that was on the inside of the core, was made up of all these different kind of copper and metals. And the lanes were different too. The bowling alley lanes that you see today were not the same either in the 60s and 70s. Even before then, they were mostly wood, from my knowledge. And to roll a rubber ball on wood is extremely difficult. You don't get too much ball reaction. You got to kind of like, the ball now is only going to do what you allow the ball to do, what you're capable of allowing that ball to do. Today, it's a little bit different because the technology in the balls make it a lot easier for the balls to roll down the lane evenly, make that sharp curve at the end to get into the pocket, which we call a strike in bowling. Earl Anthony was a natural at just making nothing into something. And he's won many championships and tours. And I don't even think myself.
What's his name again? Because I want to make sure that people Google him. What is his name again?
Earl Anthony.
Earl Anthony. And I didn't know, I mean, I bowled when I was last year when I was about what, 30 minutes. Okay. What are bowling balls made of now? If they're not made of rubber,
bowling balls
are not made of rubber, but what are they made of?
So actually, I will actually give you the timeline. So rubber was more of the 60s and 70s. When we went towards the late 80s and early 90s, bowling balls were made of titanium. A lot of them, some of them were made of different materials like we call urethane. So urethane was the original cover stock. So not to be too fast with this, let me slow down and kind of let the audience digest what I'm talking about. So the bowling ball has an inner core that's made up of different titaniums and metals and coppers and irons. That's pretty much the heart and soul and the brain of the bowling ball. But then you have the outside of the bowling ball, which we call a cover stock. And the cover stock can be made of different adjectives, different preservatives. It can be what we call a pearl polish finish. So the ball could be shiny looking. It can be ceramic looking. Then we have solids, which we call reactives now, which they're just hard, solid plastic, hard polyester, hard, solid material that we just wrap around and paint around the bowling ball's core. And that would give you a little bit more of a faster reaction, the ball surface. And then you have something called a hybrid model, which is the final model, which has a little bit of both. It has a mixture of that solid core and it has a mixture of that polish. So you kind of get the best of both worlds in the cover stock of the outside of the bowling ball to kind of try and give that certain player an advantage or some would say, a fair equal chance of competing against other athletes who may be able to control certain bowling balls better than others.
But what's amazing to me is I was never aware until this interview with you that bowling balls were once made out of rubber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. I always thought it was like this hard kind of plastic, for lack of me not understanding, plastic or something that was solid with 3 holes with different weights to them, different finger holes. I noticed too. I don't know where that came from. I don't know whether the origin of that. I know smaller fingers for children or teenagers or young adults. I know that. I guess larger holes for being adults. but never in my wildest dream, if somebody said you would be throwing a rubber ball down the lane
Yeah.
to hit some pins, I would say, okay, what's that about? But that's interesting, and I'm glad that you had mentioned this person who kind of broke this. I need to write that down too. Um, his name at some point later. But let me ask you this. So obviously you come from a line of bowlers. Now, what do you say to people that will say, well, bowling, that's kind of boring. I find bowling interesting what times I have gone, you know, and it also keeps the score, just like any other sports, football, baseball, basketball. Don't it keep scores too?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Scores is probably everything to the sport. Your score is going to determine what kind of bowler you're ranked as. Your score matters as far as your average goes. Your average would be whatever score you do the most when you're bowling, whether it's 3 games, 10 games, 20 games, or 100 games. Um, that score kind of carries on next to your name. So your score is probably the most important thing to a bowler of any kind of competition level, amateur, semi-pro, professional, and things like that. Your book average, what we call it, is your statistics inside the book that they keep for every competition. The score determines what kind of bowler you are. The score determines how strong of a bowler you are, how weak of a bowler you are. And I don't really like to use the word weak because I don't think anybody's weak. But it's
At the low end of the scale.
Yeah, you're at the low end of the scale, correct?
Yeah,
And
yeah. Well,
so it matters.
what is the top scale? I think
The
it's
top scale,
300, or is it me?
yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
300 would be, yeah, 300 would be your max score, which would be 12 strikes in a row, which is a very difficult task to do. It's like throwing a perfect game in baseball. It's like throwing up 60 points in a basketball game. Um, it's like throwing for 5 or 6 touchdowns in one game and as a quarterback in football, or running for 200 yards on the ground for the game as a running back. It's something very
That's
difficult
interesting.
to accomplish.
Has anybody broke a record for being the highest or the one that scored the most 12 strikes per se? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's people who've done it multiple times. There are people who've done it 3 games in a row. So
Wow.
what we would call that would be a series score. So a series score would be your combined total of 3 games. So your first game could be 100, just to keep it simple for the audience. Your second game could be 100, and your third game could be 200. And when you add that all up, you'll have a 400 series, we would call it. Um, if you got all 300s, all perfect games, which is something that many people in this world hasn't done. There have been some, I believe now on record, there's about 40 bowlers now on record in the world who's done this. Had 3 perfect games in a row, and 300 times 3 would give you 900, which is the maximum score you can get in the sport. You can't go above 900, and that's something what we call a prestigious game there, and that's something for the record books.
I think this is amazing, and I hope people can appreciate that bowling isn't, because some people get the impression. So, for example, when you tell people you bowl, what's the impression? It's not like you say, I'm a basketball player,
Right.
football player, you know
uh,
what I'm saying? Something like that, where they say, wow, you know what I'm saying? So, when you say you were a bowler, what is people's impression? It's like,
uh,
well,
I get mixed impressions, but I have to say, rather for me personally, I've actually gotten a oh wow impression. Like everyone's like shocked to hear that there's somebody called a professional bowler. When I say it, it's almost like people think I'm making this up. Uh, they'll say, "Oh, whoa, professional bowler! Like you do like competitions and tournaments and
yeah,
stuff." And I'm
yeah,
like, "Yeah, yeah." It's like we're professional athletes too. We make money as well. Maybe not as much as LeBron James or Tom Brady,
sure,
but
sure, sure.
we're on television just like them. We travel and we compete, and we're very competitive. I mean, if you ever stepped into a bowling alley on a Friday night, pick any night where there's no work week, no work day the next day, and the place is just loud. It's probably the loudest place you could go other than a club. People.
There's that element of excitement and hearing
Yeah,
the bowling ball going down and hearing the pins fall.
pins,
It's
right? Yeah, yeah, and I would say that I had a very positive experience from most people when I tell them, I'm a professional bowler. They want to hear more. Like, oh, what do you do? Like, hey, how do you throw the ball this way? How do you curve it like that? That it's just really hard. I can't bowl that well. Like every time I go bowling, I only score 50.
Well, when I bowl, it normally likes to stay in a gutter. I think that's what you'll call
Yes, yes, indeed.
it. Every now and then I've had the good luck where I've knocked all, what's it, 10 pins or 12 pins?
It's 10 pins.
When I knock all 10 pins down and you can't tell me squat, okay? But for bowling,
It's a good feeling, no matter who you are. It's a good feeling to knock them all down.
oh yeah, you can't tell me anything. But now there's something special about you that we haven't revealed, and that is to a degree you are visually challenged. Can you tell us about this, please?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I've always had to wear, corrective lenses since I was a kid. Vision was always a big issue for me. When I was younger, my family couldn't understand why I was running into walls and things
Really?
like that at a young age. And, teachers would tell my parents, hey, he's reading his book kind of close to his eyes. I think
Mm-hmm.
you need to go and get something checked. And, nothing drastic where I would say like I'm having any disease in my eyes, but I'm just extremely, extremely farsighted. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard for me to see things from a distance. And I think I said that incorrectly. I'm nearsighted. Sorry. I always get
In other words, very, very nearsighted. It's got to be
yeah,
really up on you, right?
right. It has to be really right up on me. And even sometimes my body and my brain has gotten so accustomed to always having to squint my eyes and read things closely. Even with corrective lenses, I still have that habit of making sure I'm seeing what I'm seeing clearly. But right now, I don't have the problems. I've pretty much got my lenses correct prescription, and it's been a big help for me in my game recently.
Well,
Um,
because that begs the question then, how do you spot the pins down at the end of the alley? Because it ain't about 3 feet away. What is the distance between the point of where you throw to the distance of where the pin is? It's got to be at least 15, 20 feet, right? No,
it's actually longer than that.
really?
If you want to count from the ball returner where you pick up your bowling ball
Yeah.
and you're getting ready to approach, the lane is actually could be anywhere from, depending on the bowling alley. Believe it or not, all bowling alleys don't have the same um, adjustments. But
Length.
yeah,
Mhm.
lane length, you're right. The length could be different. So it could range from 42 feet to even as far as 47 feet. If you want to count
Interesting.
behind the pins, getting to the back of the machine, that would be roughly 50 feet. But in bowling terms, like when we're competing, it's mostly 47 to 45 feet. The lane surface is before you get to the pins.
Okay, see, now that's where this is very suspenseful for me about you with a visual challenge from time to time of closeness.
Yeah.
How in the heck do you see those pins way, way down the alleyway? If
I,
okay,
I I don't look
you
at them
said you
actually.
develop a formula. What do you mean
Yeah.
you don't look at them? They would say, "Well, how are you going to try to strike something and you're not looking at it? How
Right.
do you do that? Can you
I
explain?"
think I think through time, a lot of people, through what you see on TV and stuff, a lot of the athletes, they're looking at the pins to kind of decipher where they want to lay their ball out at and making sure they hit that right mark so that way they get into that pocket, which is basically where you would find your strike, your successful strike. Um, when I was younger, I was just throwing the ball down the lane. I really couldn't see that well again because when I first started bowling, I think that was something I'm missing from everyone in the audience is that I started bowling as young as 5 years old. So my vision wasn't correct at 5 years old, going into almost eighth grade. I mean, year eight, where I'm 8 years old and I'm discovering I
Mhm.
need glasses. and
Yeah, yeah.
so I think me starting at a young age, I had to learn how to not look at the pins and find another way to get that ball down the lane, which is extremely challenging at that age to learn because everyone's been taught one way, but now you have to be taught a different way. But the way that I'm being taught now is starting to transition over time now as the format that how people want to bowl now. But just to answer your question, I look down at the lanes, and if you really anybody that wants to go bowling again, pay attention to this next time you go if you haven't. You'll have dots right at the beginning where the line is, where the lane is before you throw your ball. There'll be dots there on the lanes. And that kind of signals to you how close you are to the gutter and how far you are from the gutter.
Uh-huh.
Then you have your arrows, of course. Everyone sees the
Yeah, those
arrow.
like those triangular
Yeah,
shape, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Those arrows are actually there to guide you on where the line is, on where the ball is. Now, I don't want to get too technical with the audience, because I'm sure everyone in the audience isn't bowlers. So I want to try and make this in simple terms as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you go for the middle arrow, right? Most people shoot for the middle arrow because they want to go dead on into those pins because they think that it's going to explode by just going straight ahead at the bowling ball. I mean,
Yeah.
at the pins.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. It does work sometimes. Strange things happen in the sport. But you want to use your arrows to kind of guide where that ball is going to roll, and you also got to know what direction your ball is going in. Is your ball moving too far to the right? Is your ball moving too far to the left of the lane? Is it going too straight? You got to kind of position your body and position your arm, and you got to kind of aim for that spot.
So you're saying there's really a science to this. It ain't just about just throwing it down the lane like I would do it, because that's what I
Yeah,
do.
I had a coach young. I used to grow up in Woodmere Lanes bowling alley. I just want to shout out Woodmere Lanes out in New York and Long Island, Nassau County.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I really started my journey as a bowler. And I remember John coming up to me. He's the owner of Woodmere Lanes. And he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, how about you just stop flinging the ball and hoping for the best?" He's like, as I was like, but Mr. John, I really can't see that well. So I'm just hoping I can get as many pins as I can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I still remember the conversation, and it stuck with me to this day, how he taught me how to read the lines, read the boards, and read those dots and what these dots mean, where to stand. And I slowly developed through time growing up bowling more that I didn't need to look down the lane. If you roll that ball in that right spot, the ball will get there.
Really?
Yeah, I kid
So
you not. I
yeah,
didn't believe it myself.
because what times I have bowled, I'm thinking you got to look down there and look at the pins, and then you throw.
Right. I mean, that would be the standard format how a lot of people bowl, and I still see that today in
You
my
see very
competition.
amateurish. That's what you're saying. That's what
Yeah.
I very amateurish, right?
So now they would tell us that, well, my style of bowling is considered unorthodox. It's not wrong. What they mean is it's not the standard way that many people are taught how to bowl. It's not the standard procedure on how to read a lane and how to place your ball down correctly to get to the pins. So my tactic is unorthodox because it's not as popular and it's not as well used. I'm not the only one that does this for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
am definitely in the minority group of people who practice this way of playing the sport. I mean, if you see videos of myself, it will pretty much show you that I don't even look up. The whole time my head is down and I roll the ball and I place it in that spot. I'm looking at the lanes because I can see it. It's something that I'm accustomed to. Now I can see down the lane. But now I've learned through all these years, I got so accustomed to not looking at
To
the
stay
pin.
on the floor,
I
right?
stay on the floor and I look at the floor, I look at the line that I want to go, and every time I release, if I do it right, let's say I don't mess up and I don't fling my arm all over the place, and I do everything I'm supposed to do correctly, I have my stance right, my approach correctly, my slide foot is in place, my balance is on point. I'm telling you, I get the ball in the pocket. I've gotten 7 strikes, 8. I've got 10 strikes in a row before. Even I've gotten this far. I never got a
So
300
you
game
got a
yet.
perfect score in bowling.
I haven't. I came very close, and this actually very recently I've becoming very close. I've been getting my highest score right now is a 290.
Well,
Um,
it's only 10 points off. I'm not going to
yeah,
argue with that. Okay.
I'm one shot off. I'm always one shot away, and then I'll get a 9. I'll knock down 9 pins or leave 2 pins over, and it's always it's like,
Well,
oh
here's
man.
the question to you. If you can't see down at the far end where the pins are, and let's say you got a pin to the far right and you got a pin to the far left, and there's some kind of tricks that whatever you do to make it hit and hit the other one over. What do you do?
Oh, I same
That
same
situation?
same concept. What I do is I'll just reposition myself. So let's say you have a pin all the way on the edge, right, on the
Yeah,
side of the lane, and I have another pin in the middle of the lane.
yeah.
Well, what I do is I use the same concept. I will look at the right dot because, again, it's all about where you place that ball. Because if you place that ball in the wrong spot, you're never going to get anywhere near the pins. I don't care how you throw the ball. Yeah. So what I do is I still reposition myself. I usually have a teammate that will tell me, hey, you know where you got to put the spot. So usually I have help now. Somebody will say, hey, in order to get that pin on that left side over there, you're gonna have to
They
spot it here.
they help you spot where the pin
Yeah.
positions are.
Yeah, they was like, hey, go on. They can't physically show me what to do in competition, of course, but they can say, hey, eight board. I know what an eight board is. The average bowler or the average person who goes out every day and bowls may not know what an eight board is.
I never heard of it because I was going to say it don't mean nothing to me, but it
Yeah.
shows you how numbers are used to describe things. That's what I try to tell people.
Yeah,
Imagine.
this sport is all about numbers. It's all about physics, and it's all about chemistry. Um, if the physics aren't right, the chemistry isn't going to be right. Because in chemistry, you have to be consistent in order to get the good formula and to get the good chemical that you're trying to create. So you got to be consistent. And in physics, you have to understand numbers. You have to understand patterns. You have to understand geometry. You got to understand what asymmetrical is and symmetrical. You got to know angles because that ball is going to curve. That ball may stay flat. It may be parallel to the pins, or you might have to throw the ball horizontally. I've seen the craziest things. Sometimes you got to put a spin on the ball. So now your ball is no longer rolling. It's now doing a 360 like a spin top.
As it's going down the
As it's going down the lane.
That's interesting.
And it's widely used in Japan. If you watch a lot of Japanese bowlers, you can go on YouTube and Google this. Japanese bowlers, they have a certain spin to their release on. You'll see that they spin their ball onto the lane more, and it gives it that nice rotational spin, and it gives it the ball enough time to snap at the end and just plow through the pins. That's their style of bowling out there.
So for them, they find that more effective when they're
Yeah.
getting okay.
And they're taught this at a young age in their bowling academies on how to bowl like that. Like their physics, their way of seeing the physics of the game is far different from the West. And how we see the game.
You're telling me there are actually bowling academies?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's not enough bowling academies in the U.S. I feel compared to how many basketball camps you have, how many football camps you have, how many baseball camps you have, even soccer probably has a bigger presence in the U.S. than bowling. But if you go to Europe, you go to Middle East, you go to Japan again, you go to Taiwan or Philippines, there's bowling academies everywhere. There's bowling alleys everywhere. There's a lot of things that you could get involved in to get your kids or even yourself, even at your age, you could still pick up a bowling ball and be very competitive. It's one of those sports that don't discriminate.
That's interesting. That's so it doesn't have an age limit. That's I guess somewhat close to like golf, right?
Correct. Golf and
thing,
bowling has a very very close
right?
tie to each other.
That's very interesting. Now how long have you been bowling? Since 5 years old. So that
Yeah,
means you've been bowling at least 20 something years, I guess.
yeah. I'm now 27, so you could say roughly I've been bowling 22 years now. Of my life, it's been a big part of my life. I have to say now to kind of gear things more personally. It's something that really saved me growing up in the inner cities, growing up in a challenging community, where the streets could take you at any time. You could fall victim. You could fall into the streets. Um, I grew up around a lot of people I've seen didn't make it to my age. I grew up with a lot of fabulous individuals who are my age who are doing great things in life now. And the game kind of kept me off the streets. It kind of kept me out of trouble. It kept me away from all the noise that was going on in my neighborhood. And of course, I'll say where I'm from. I grew up in Queens, New York, and the Rockaways, specifically in a complex called Ocean Village at the time, but now it's been renamed recently through revitalization, and it's called Arvern View.
Uh-huh.
And it was a very challenging community in the early 90s up until I would say mid 2000s. So as a kid, it was roughly one of the top 5 most dangerous neighborhoods in New York City for the course of those decades. And it's really made a big improvement. I mean, it's a long way to go. There's a lot of things I still wish back home would change still, but the sport of bowling, personally, for me, it was able to. I found something I was good at. I found something that was relatable to my family, and I found things that were. I felt like I would have success in this. I was like, hey, maybe I could take this, and I could start to see my city. I bowled in high school. I took this into high school. I finished 11th place in New York City back in 2014.
Not bad, not bad.
I was very upset at myself when I made the city championships, and I totally was like, it was a totally different world for me. I never was around so many people my age who were into the same things I was into. I never knew what it meant to talk to recruiters. I never knew what it was like to have a good coach, have a good supporting cast around me, have a supportive people to guide me on where to go next. I actually make sure I want to get this closer to the camera. This is my medal from.
Hold up. Let me get full view, because I was going to ask you, have you ever won a prize as a result? Can you put that on the screen, please?
Sure. So yeah, this is actually my medal I received in high school back in 2014, and if they could read that or not, it'll tell you 11th place. I went to school in Brooklyn, by the way. I went to Automotive High School, which is no longer around. They now changed the name of that school to A-Tech out in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I decided to go there. I wanted to, again, I wanted to leave my neighborhood. I wanted to go out and explore. I wanted to meet new people.
Sure.
So I don't regret that decision at all. The high school bowling has really gave me the confidence that I can do something with this sport, and I can do something with myself, something I can be proud of for myself. And I would never imagine that I'll be wearing a jersey like this that has PBA on the side.
Wearing now, for those of us like myself that are very unfamiliar, what jersey are you wearing, and what is
so this is a very popular brand. It's been around.
Let me give you full view.
It's Brunswick. It's a very popular, very classic brand in the sport.
Isn't that a bowling brand?
Yes, it's a bowling brand. They're the brand that's pretty much sponsoring my jersey right now for competitions in the PBA circuit. So I'm going to just show the audience. I have the patch here. So I am a member of the PBA. So
you're official. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah. So again, it was an honor and a privilege to join and finally have the finances and the resources to at least get started with the career, because that's another thing we can get into as well. Is that being a professional athlete of any sport is not easy. I don't care if you're just hitting a golf club or you're jumping basketball. A lot of money is involved, and a lot of connections, and a lot of people you have to rub shoulders with in order to get these opportunities.
Well, I think Jeff, that what happens is professionals who have dedicated hours upon hours and years and weeks and months and days, and whatever the case is, they make it look so simple when you're out there in the court, out in the arena. It's like, man, give me a bowling ball. I can throw that down. Right. Not understanding that it's just not as simple as it appears. But I got a comment that's interesting. Somebody said to you, and you can read it at the bottom of the screen. It says, I think Jeff meant to say Gary Faulkner Jr., not Mark Anthony. I don't quite remember hearing.
I know I said Earl Anthony, but Gary Faulkner Jr. is definitely another name that rings bells, and I'm very sorry that I forgot about him.
Is it African American?
Yes. I'm very sorry I forgot about him. How could I?
No. But that shows you the sophistication of my viewers.
Yeah.
Thank you, the Scorpio remixes. Okay, that's all I'm saying. But it just goes to show you how we help balance each other. And believe me, I am sure, knowing you didn't need to want one out. Probably that's the one that probably came to your mind. But I think that So Gary Faulkner is also one of the leading African American champions
Oh
in.
yeah, he's actually the first. He's actually the first champion for African Americans to win a major tour. I'm so sorry I forgot about him, and I apologize to his family if they're watching. That was an extreme error on my part. Earl Anthony was one of my favorite black bowlers growing up that I watched in the ABC tour. But yeah, he came a little bit after Gary. So Gary Faulkner Jr. definitely deserves my respect, and I already feel really bad that I've passed up on him
Listen,
like that.
welcome to being human, brother.
Yeah,
Don't look
yep,
like you're walking on water yet, so don't
yeah,
even worry about it. But see, this is the beauty of my viewers that have that level of understanding, and I thank Scorpio Remixes for kind of like doing that. But believe me, it's one thing to be intentional. I know good and well. Look,
yeah.
from our conversation was not intentional. Okay. And I think this is the first time you're doing a segment like this. So if you can't think of everything at the same time, but now at the time of Gary Faulkner's being one of the first in this of African American descent, was the bowling ball made of rubber or of
Oh,
this
absolutely.
titanium and all
Yeah,
that stuff?
absolutely. He definitely came in that era as well. He was definitely one of the ones who had to deal with the very old technology, the very poor lane conditions. Um, I mean, he even played as early as when they used to have a pin spotter in the back. And before we
Yeah,
had the
I
machines,
heard of that. Yeah,
yeah, we had a pin spotter guy that would sit there. You'll be somebody as young as me or younger back there resetting the pins every time you throw down the ball. And then you
wow.
look before the machines were alive too. You know, before we had computers, they were writing it on a chalkboard. So you know, they would keep score on the chalkboard, and that's how they pretty much kept up with with everyone's score back then. So it was very difficult in those times to bowl. I would say. I think I've gotten it a lot easier than they do.
Wow. 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 Somebody said they knew I was going to say that's crazy. Well, listen, I'm very predictable. I ain't going to front. Okay. But what happens is it proves, as one of the persons says, that it proves that nothing is a hindrance, only your self-doubt.
I agree
But you
100%.
did not get into bowling and say, well, listen, man, I can't see down the lane. So what's the point of me throwing the ball down there? And I can't see it. Whereby you had the good fortune of going to a bowling lane out in Long Island. And the owner of the bowling lane, to his credit, I will give him that,
Absolutely.
saw something in you to say, listen, well, here's another way of how you do it. And what times I have bowled, I've always looked way down the lane. I've never looked at those dots. I've seen them. It
It's not the wrong thing to
doesn't
do
mean-
either.
huh?
It's not the wrong thing to do either, but there's a concept to it. It's more than just looking at the pins and let me throw the ball straight at the pins. You got to kind of see both angles. You got to kind of see both perspectives and make sure you follow through with everything. Every piece of your body with that bowling ball counts.
Does bowlers have coach? Do you have a coach? Does that make sense?
Technically, yeah, well, yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of us have managers. I, for one, is actually don't have a coach right now. Would love to have a coach. It's just a matter of me finding a way to pay someone.
Yeah,
um,
everything is, yeah.
yeah,
I You coach a 10-year-old from time to time.
yeah, I do actually, and I'm a big believer in helping out those that are younger than me, even though I'm still young myself. Because me as a young person growing up didn't always have that type of proper teaching. Didn't have someone that actually cared about improving me. Everyone just wanted to beat me. Everyone just wants to be better than everyone. So
Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah.
it's a competitive sport. And I just that's something that's instilled in me growing up. I did community service and things like that, and I want to always make sure that someone has an easier path than I do. It wasn't easy for me to get to this road, and it's still not easy for me to maintain the road that I'm on with this sport. So, the 10-year-old came up to me in the bowling alley one day. He seen I had the PBA on my chest, and
Yeah, yeah.
they come in and they watch us when we're doing our preliminaries and we're doing our practice sessions and stuff. And there's other bowlers there who are far greater talent than I am. And for some reason, he decided to come and talk to me. I mean, he passed up an Olympic athlete. He passed up a PBA tour champion.
Hmm.
and he comes to me, and I think a lot of that has to do with me being a young face, you
Well,
know.
children can also feel the energy too. They can
Yeah,
also
the energy.
in their own
Yeah,
intuitive way. What? Who's cool? No, he's not cool. I'll go with you. But I think
yeah,
that's nice. Now, here's something. A woman says, "Goddess essence energy." She says, "Wow, I think it's a Williams thing because your name is Jeffrey Williams hyphen Maisonet." Okay. She says it's a William thing because my dad teaches bowling leagues, and my little brother has been bowling since he was 3 years old, and
wow.
my grandparents bowled as well. It sounds like your family.
Yeah,
You all know each other. You know what I'm saying?
you never know. Where I got a big family. We could be far removed.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, but it just goes to show you how it is. This is somebody says yes, Fall Rockaway is still a rough part of Queens. So, but that's good. So that means you got yours in the hood, so to speak, as we would
Yeah,
say.
very
Uh,
much so.
Now this person here, Redtail 11, says, "Nice. I went to junior John Dewey High School in Brooklyn. I took bowling, or is it the no, the Bronx would have been BX in Brooklyn. And I took bowling as a gym elective at Shell Lane."
Oh, Shell Lanes. Oh, that's where I did my borough championships at in Shell Lanes. So yeah, I remember playing.
Oh, this person is talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yes, absolutely. Shell Lanes was, oh man, great memories. The audience is bringing up now to me. John Dewey was actually a pretty competitive school when I was going to school in high school in Brooklyn. They were a pretty competitive bowling team. I believe they made playoffs every season I was in school. So we actually butt heads a lot in Shell Lanes. Shell Lanes was where all the top bowlers in Brooklyn would actually go and compete, hang out, practice. Um, Also, give credit to Maple Lanes, which is no longer there. That was on New Utrecht Avenue in
Hmm.
Brooklyn. Yeah, they're bringing up great memories. Yeah, my high school days, I bowled a lot at Shell, and I actually earned this medal. I earned the medal at Shell Lanes.
Is that the one you just showed us?
Yes, I actually earned that at Shell Lanes. So, yeah,
Interesting. Interesting.
it's
Okay.
great. It's great to see we got an audience
As they say, small world, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely. So that,
Now,
that makes me very excited.
this person here asks an interesting question. Is there a league solely for black bowlers?
Oh, excellent question. That was definitely something I wanted to talk about with you as well. I'm not sure how much time we got left, but this
No,
is
no. We got, excuse me. Go ahead. Thank you.
this is very important to me, and I think that's a very good question. I, for one, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I don't care who
No,
sees it.
excuse me. Don't worry about that, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think this sport necessarily focuses on any inner city minorities, and I'm going to include all minority groups, that being Hispanic, that being African American, that being of Asian uh,
Mm,
descent, and so forth. Whoever is not included in the majority of America.
mhm,
Um, I I strongly believe that there needs to be something needs to change or something else needs to be created. I think the way I'm treated sometimes as a black bowler is not the same as my white counterparts. And this is nothing against my white colleagues in the PBA, the ones I bowl with in my leagues every week. Um, Other professionals that I know that are in the sport. This is not a knock on them. They're all great individuals. They're all great people.
yeah,
But
but you can pause. What do you mean? You
uh,
treated the
I
same.
I
Can
will
you?
say
I
I will.
mean, seriously, be real, because this is our viewers. I think so. So those of us that are interested in bowling will know what's up going into it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you said you're not treated like well, I do know that people of African descent we're totally treated differently. But in your case, what do you mean?
Level of competitions that we're invited to, I necessarily feel like it's not presented and it's not advertised the same in our communities. I think a lot of people in our communities are not aware that their kids can make a lot of money, have a lot of career opportunities in this, win scholarships to college. I mean, you can go to college for free, just like any other sport out there, and they will give you
On
an
a
athletic
bowling
scholarship.
scholarship?
Yeah, they have bowling athletic scholarships in the NCAA and in the JACCP, and JAAA. AACP, sorry, which is the junior college league, which is mostly community colleges, but they have 4-year schools as well. Um, there's several opportunities out there that I wasn't aware of when I was younger. I'm aware of them now because I'm in the belly of the beast, as they say. Um, yeah, a lot of black bowlers, a lot of minority bowlers are not equally treated the same as far as getting that information out there. Uh, the black colleges, all the HBCUs in the country have some of the best bowling programs in the country. By the way, they're some of the best. They're some of the best colleges for national championships. I mean, loads of money comes through the sport with black colleges in America, and they're very successful colleges in the sport. And believe it or not, I don't see many black bowlers on these teams in these colleges, and I find that very strange and very alarming that we have our white counterparts getting scholarships, which they have a right to as well, but they're coming to HBCUs on a full ride scholarship competing for these colleges. And I'm just like, well, some can make the argument.
Coming to historically black.
Yes, historically black universities. I'm talking Bethune-Cookman. I'm talking Howard University has a great team. Morgan State, Morehouse. I mean, all these schools have great bowling programs. Coppin State recently was in the Final Four for the women. Coppin State in Baltimore, Maryland, was one of the top ranking schools this year. SF Austin was one of the big ones. Nebraska is known. Wichita State is also known. But outside of all those other big colleges, the HBCUs are right there.
Well, there's the follow up to this person, Scorpio Mixes. It says, do black bowlers face the same level of racism as athletes in other pro sports? And I think you kind of directly and indirectly answered that question.
Well, yeah, I'll further elaborate. Me personally, I've walked into pro shops during tournament time. I mean, it's time for us to gather our things and start our tournament. So what we do in preparation is we take our bowling balls to the pro shop. We write our name down. We tell them what we need done with our bowling balls before our competition is about to start. Mm-hmm. I went into a pro shop, and I'm not going to name the pro shop on live air, but I went to the pro shop where they were competing for this tournament, and it was in a place where I wouldn't have expected this to happen. I mean, there were other black bowlers there. There were other black executives there who were judges who were overseeing the competition, inspecting the bowling balls. I walk in the pro shop. I have my jersey on. I have my name in the back of it. I present myself and tell them, hey, I'm Jeffrey Williams Maisonet. I'm here to pick up my my bowling balls and my equipment. Is it ready yet? And he says, he gives me a weird look, and it is a he. I am referencing this is a male, a white male to be exact. And mm-hmm. He's like, are you Jeffrey Williams Maisonet? I was like, yeah, that's what I just said. That's me. And he's giving me this look like he wanted to ask me, am I sure? And he was like, he's like, you're Jeffrey Williams Maisonet. I was like, yeah. I was like, do you need to see my ID or something? I was like, what's going on here? I need my stuff. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna need your ID just to make sure.
Are you serious?
Just to make sure that this is actually you. I don't want to give our professional bowlers equipment.
Wait a minute. He thinks anybody can just walk up there and try to grab a ball under the pretext of a name. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, and he thinks that someone would just come in and impersonate me and say they're who I am and then take my bowling equipment. For one, bowling equipment is very personal. So if someone was to steal my bowling ball, there's not much they can do with it because it doesn't fit their hand. My ball might be too heavy for them. My ball might be too light for them. They have no use for my equipment.
Yeah.
And I presented my ID just to alleviate the confrontation because I got to be psychologically. I think also people underestimate how you got to be in a good psychological state.
Good state of mind when you're going to competition. Yeah.
So I tried to not let it get to me, and I said I'll take care of this when the time comes to take care of this. But I can't let this situation right now, ruin my energy before I go out there and I have to compete for big money. I thought I was actually being racially profiled because my name is Jeffrey.
I would say it kind of sounds interesting that probably of all the people that come to get their bowling equipment, you have to show your ID.
Yeah.
So forgive me if I sound a little bit, some might be saying paranoid, but whatever the case is, but this is no accident. It's always there is an issue of some kind where other people tend to have problems. That is not my problem, nor should it be yours. We have a divine right to be here. Okay. We're the greatest people on the planet. And that's my attitude, and nothing will change it. It's just that simple. History proves it and everything else. But here's another thing. I did not know in competition you got to go take your balls to get fixed. What do you mean? What they do? They polish them? Or they
Oh yeah. It
them?
could be simple.
Tell us
Yeah.
about
It could be simple polishing because some lane conditions and oil conditions are different from when you go and recreationally go and play bowling. We get different layouts on the lane, so oil can only be halfway down the lane instead of all the way down the lane. You know how you see them sometimes you'll see oil coming off the ball when you go bowling.
that. I've never paid attention to it.
That some people even fall if they go over that line when they're bowling and on the bowling alley. Those lanes are very slippery and you can definitely fall.
That's from the oil from the balls?
Yeah, that's all the oil from the lanes. Actually, the oil comes from the lanes itself. So when you roll your bowling ball on them, the oil gets attached to the bowling ball, and when it comes back from the ball returner, you can see that oil line on your ball.
Is
And
that normal, or is that to help the ball slide further easier down the lane?
it's normal. It's actually for competition reasons. A lot of people don't know. It's actually to make the sport a little bit harder because
Interesting. Interesting.
if you didn't put all that oil down there, oh, we'll be having a field day on those lanes. It'll be so easy to find where to put that ball in so you can get that right rotation and that right reaction at the right time. So when you're in professional competitions, they have different oil patterns. They have different names to them. I mean, there's hundreds of different names they put. So remember when I was explaining early on in the show
Yeah.
about how you have 45 feet lanes roughly? We
Yeah.
have oil that goes from 42 feet and then the rest of the lane is dry, meaning there's no oil at all on there. And that can change the whole dynamic of the game.
So
We,
you got to deal with the aerodynamics, so to speak, just going
correct,
down the lane.
correct. The elements you're fighting as well.
So now I understand what you said earlier in the interview about the physics.
Yes, that's where physics comes into play now because a ball rolling on oil is completely different from a ball rolling on something that is dry on a dry surface. So, like you said, that oil can cause the ball to drag. It can cause the ball to slide, and that could mean a lot of trouble for me and a lot of other professional bowlers out there. It could mean a lot of trouble.
Hold up, hold up. Let me put your banner up so people can. And by the way, he was nice enough to give out two things: his phone number. So for those of you who are interested in bowling, and by the way, I do want to say this too because there was a person in where are they? Evidently, you mentioned this state, Coppin State. They said that's their alma mater. Yes, started bowling there back in the 80s.
Nice.
Yes, I want to give them their props and whatnot. That's good. But let me get back to your banner. Uh, and so, as you see, he is a pro bowler, a motivator. Obviously, this has been a very motivating interview to me. The next time I go
Appreciate it.
bowling, and goodness knows when that will be, I'm going to pay attention to those dots. I saw these things on the, at the beginning before you go down the lane. It didn't mean nothing to me, but it shows you the difference between an amateur, well, I wouldn't even call myself an amateur, and a pro that understands what those arrows mean and what they can signal to throw strikes. Okay. He's a teacher also. His contact number is 347-385-9770. Is that correct, sir?
Correct. You got it.
Right. And he is on Instagram, so you can get in his business in that way. Is deep underscore house underscore Jeff. And his Facebook is Maisonet, and I incorrectly, and I do apologize on the applied spelling with a double T when it's only one T, but it's Maisonet space Jeff. And his Cash App. Let us be very clear about the cash. Oh man, hold up, buddy.
It came up short. It looks like.
No, no. Well, it shouldn't have come up short. But let me say this though: we're gonna make a correction on that right now while we talk. What is your Cash App, sir?
It'll be the same as my Instagram, but just no spaces. It'll be Deep House Jeff altogether.
Deep. Hold on. I'm gonna make sure we do this right now. $ Deep House Jeff.
Correct. That's it. Yep.
Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go, folks. That's his Cash App. All righty. So you know how I feel about the Cash App because he needs. Because don't professional bowlers get sponsors to help them raise monies to practice and all this other stuff?
Absolutely. However, I'm glad you raised that question as well. A lot of us professional bowlers don't get sponsorships right away. That's where, well, paid sponsorships, I should say. I do have a sponsor clearly, but they do not actually pay for my expenses for competition yet. It's more of like you
That's
have to,
sponsoring you then.
yeah,
What's the
it,
point?
it because they want to still promote their brand while I compete, and it's a lot of politics that goes into it. The PBA is a publicly traded company, so they have partners, they have investors,
Well,
and
you mean don't they give you therefore brand bowling balls or brand name shoes? Don't they give you that too?
yeah, if you are a paid sponsor, so if you have a paid sponsorship under that company, you will get all that stuff for free. They will give you all the tools you need. They will give you all the new bowling balls to try out and compete with, and that's where the level of competition and the disparity I say about the sport comes into play there.
So you have a non-paid sports sponsor. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
I have a non-paid sponsor
In
right
other
now.
words, so what they're doing is they're using your expertise and professionalism to support their brand, but you're not yet compensated. Is that what you're telling me, sir?
Yeah, we don't get compensated. The only time we get compensated is if we win or if we place in a what they call cash. If you did in a cash placement, that's when you will be get paid. So let's say top five bowlers get paid. Let's say top prize is $3,000, and then it decreases down to the fifth place bowler. That's when.
Here's my question. When you have one, and I assume you have one, which is why they sponsoring you to a degree, have they in some, and if I'm crossing the line with something, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. So when you do win, are you therefore compensated? And I'm not talking about an extra bowling ball to take home or a pair of bowling sneakers to take home.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to answer that question completely, but I'm going
Okay.
to give you.
All right.
I'm going to give you the best.
I know.
Let me give you the best way to answer the question is that you must win. You must win in order for them to give you what exactly you need to continue the brand. Because here's the thing, they have a business as well. They say, hey, the more successful you are, the more successful they are.
I guess so, but it seemed like it because it's predicated upon your ability to win, that therefore there should be some fit.
Right.
I'm just saying, I ain't trying to start no stuff with what you're trying to do. I'm just saying, but anyway, so because they're doing that, we're going to sponsor you our viewership. So please sponsor Jeff Maisonet, please, at Deep House Jeff. $ Deep House Jeff. Let's sponsor. And I'm going to send something your way too. It ain't going to be much. It ain't going to be no sponsorship money. I'm going to send
every little bit
you know
counts,
what
and
I'm
I'm
saying?
grateful for any
That's
content.
what I'm saying. Seriously, I had no idea about these things. You're sponsored and you're not paid. It's okay. Listen, I'm going to leave well enough alone. I'm just saying.
it has some good perks, and I'll throw some of the good perks out there. The good perks is that, well, when I
Bills too. That makes it even better.
oh, absolutely. Now I can say that I would love to pay my bills a little
Yeah,
bit
but
more.
this is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Okay. So anyway. I hope I ain't step on no toes. I didn't mean to step on no toes. I'm just
No,
saying
no, not at
fair,
all. You asked
fair
a question.
is fair. Okay. And I know how we do. We're the most gifted people on the planet in any area we go into. And therefore, people have made a ton of money on us in the NCAA and other areas of collegiate sports, whether basketball, football, whatever the case is. Bowling has been asleep because I never thought. First of all, I'm not a sports person, as I said before, so I never put that much into it. But this has been an eye opener just in the world of bowling for me, and I hope it has been for our viewers as well. But the fact that you would be sponsored and not compensated, I ain't trying to start no stuff. I'm just saying that's all.
Hey, you have a
My
right to
man,
a right to your opinion.
but what I'm saying is this: in light of that, and you telling us and pulling our coat to that, I'm saying it behooves everyone in this viewership this evening to make a small donation, a couple of dollars, whatever, but donate to this. And so our views, the Live with Lloyd will sponsor. Okay, I'll put it like that. I ain't trying to drag everybody into this, but I'm just saying let us sponsor, let us show some love and support for what Jeff Maisonet is doing. And so when you bowl again, because I'm going to have you back probably in the middle of next year to find out what you did, how you did,
Absolutely.
and we'll just get an update. But this has been fascinating, man. I could keep you on much longer, but I'm going to give you a break, Jeff.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you. Thank
I thank
you.
you so much. If you allow me, I just want to give a few shout outs to people out there
Hold
who's
up, hold up. Let me get full view so you can do just that, buddy. Go right ahead.
yeah, I just want to give a special shout out. Again, I'm a very humble guy. I want to always thank those who've helped me along the way and those who continue to help me along my path, my career, my personal life, um, anything of that such. So I just want to give a shout out to Scorpion Remixes on the chat. I actually know who that is. Happens to be
Yep,
a
yep,
very
that's my buddy. That's my
happens
buddy.
to be a very dear mentor of mine. It's by the name of Gary Gannell Toms. He has great remixes. You guys have to check out that page, especially all my old school viewers out there.
Investigative journalist too. I
Yeah,
just
he's also very important to know he's an investigative journalist as well. So if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, he's your man to go to. And shout out to Nick and John over there with I almost said Woodhaven Lanes. That's a classic bowling alley, but Woodmere Lanes. I want to thank them as well. There was times where I had no money. I mean, I was flat broke as a kid, and I used to go in there and say, hey, I want to bowl. I want to practice. He'll turn the switch on for me, and they say, go ahead, just bowl as long as you like.
that's nice. That's nice.
And I have to thank them because that free time that they given me, it also played a part. I want to thank my coaches in high school, Coach Rothenberg, Coach Stasiak, from Automotive High School. Big shout out to all my league bowlers who I bowl with here in Maryland. Shout out to all my league bowlers in New York that I miss playing with, grew up with, lots of memories with. I want to shout them out too. Most importantly, my mom, my sister out there, they've been my greatest supporters along the path. And I'm going to shout out my dad anyway. He's no longer here, but I'm going to shout him out anyway. Maybe he's watching. Maybe he's watching from another place.
Yeah. Oh, he is a better place, as they used to say.
Yeah, and my grandfather as well. He's been the most successful bowler in my family. He's actually very few to get an 800 series game. He has multiple plaques. I have some of his plaques up there in my closet over here. I still kept some of his awards and stuff. So um, definitely got to give. If there's one bowler that I can name out of everyone, forget about my favorite professional bowler out there. Forget about everything else. I have to say my grandfather's been my biggest idol in the sport, and I'm gonna take that crown someday, Grandpa.
Hold up, but let us give him further props. What is your grandfather's name, sir?
So his name is actually James Williams. He's no longer here as well. I actually never got a chance to meet him, but I know he's proud. He's looking down on me. He never got the opportunities I got. And I'm hoping I can reach those accolades. Those accolades will never be accounted for, by the way, because, again, grew up in the civil rights era. A lot of our stuff was pretty much thrown under the ground and forgotten about. But that's why I'm here today as well, to continue that legacy. And
You make sure you do that too, my brother.
you
So
know,
you feel good about yourself. And so James Williams from the heavens above or wherever can feel real good that all that he has done that has led to it. And I think it's nice that you come from a family of bowlers, your mom, your sister, your cousins, your father, your grandfather. I mean, if it don't run in the family, I don't know what does. Okay. But for my viewers, I please let us do a Live with Lloyd scholarship. I'm going to make a donation. I'm telling you up front.
really appreciate that.
I want you all to make a donation toward his sponsorship. I don't know how people going. Again, I have some issues with certain things. How you going? I'm gonna use you to sponsor my stuff, and you're not compensated. I'm just these are just common sense things to me. right, wrong, or different. Or maybe somebody will say, well, listen, Lloyd, you don't understand. I do understand in terms of the logic that if you're doing something for which people are interested in you branding them or carrying their brand, seem like to me the there's got to be a value for value relationship. But that's me. But again, I don't know jack about sports, so I'm going to leave it alone for now. But I'm just telling you,
Appreciate you anyway.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so please call him at 347-385-9770. And again, we are going to sponsor you as best we can. I don't care if y'all gotta send 50 cents to Cash App. Y'all just make some effort out. You know,
Absolutely.
seriously, I'm serious about this. So when this brother wins, we can say, and then I'm gonna bring you back to find out how you did up the road with stuff like that. But it's $ deep DEEP HOUSE House Jeff JEFF Deep House Jeff. So send some sponsorship, and you're gonna be getting something from me too. That's how we roll in
I
this with our
really
viewers. Okay,
appreciate you guys. It's definitely not about that, but anything will do definitely help. But
it's about
I
that too,
appreciate
because you
it.
got to pay some bills and buy some food. And how you gonna focus on being a champion if you're starving? How you going to be focused on being a champion if you're worried about paying your phone bill or your light bill or your rent?
Absolutely, you're
That's
right.
a distraction to me. Okay. So
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. Okay. So I know people might you send your comments. I feel you. But this, I mean, let us use a little common sense up in this piece. How you going to be the best at it if you're distracted with paying rent, food, and stuff like that? And then they want to sponsor you. And so that's all I'm saying. So, um, maybe, hey, let me leave this alone. Anyway, hold on one second. Let me tell you who's going to be on Wednesday. There's a couple of things that's going on, and let me do this on Wednesday for you ladies. I got something just for you ladies, and her name is Rasmala. And let me tell you about Rasmala. I had a talk with her today. And if you're her, what we're going to talk about, all of y'all going to enroll to be her client. So she is very, very, she's just an extraordinary person. All the guests I have, from my opinion, is very extraordinary. But she is going to be on Wednesday at 7. It's called facial yoga. So you don't have to get no Botox. You don't have to get this or that. Everything she's going to teach you will be organic. She is going to give us a demonstration. Also, I want to let you know that my course is on sale. My 3 courses last week, it was $24 for the top prize. The top one this time is $19. Take advantage of all 3 courses. You own them. They're online. They go at your own pace. Some people do early, some people late, but the fact that you go at your own pace, that's the important point. So please sign up for them. November is almost a wrap. That's because October's around the corner, and all of you will be getting your free October monthly newsletter soon. But right now, for whatever it is, you can, for those of you who just signed it, just go to my website, lloyd-strayhorn.com. That's where you also sign up for my courses too, to get the discount. Lloyd, LLOYD-Strayhorn, STRAYHORN.com. Okay. Lloyd-strayhorn.com. Sign up for all 3 courses. You own them. Also sign up for the free monthly newsletter. And again, my special guest on Wednesday. This woman is awesome. I mean, I talked to her this afternoon. We did a show. Okay. So we're gonna talk again. Anyway, but let me get back to Jeff and thank him so much. Jeff, this has been an amazing experience for me. Whoops. Hold on, buddy. This has been an amazing experience for me. Thank you for raising my awareness. I will appreciate bowling whenever, if ever I go. I'm going to look to see where those dot lines are on there and whatnot. So in other words, when you throw the ball, you're supposed to throw them before you get to the dot lines, or you throw when you step on the lines. You can't
Uh,
go past those lines, right?
no, you can't go past the line at all. That would be a foul. So you definitely got to release your ball. You actually got to release your ball on or after it. So you could do it on the line, but make sure that foot doesn't go over the line, and you'll be all set.
Such technicalities, such things I never knew before.
Yep. If any part of your body goes over that line, it will be considered a foul. So you definitely want to
So
make
even
sure
if
you.
you scored a strike throwing that ball, that you done null and void that.
Yes. So yeah, that's happened to me before, and it's very upsetting that you'll get a strike and then the foul light comes
No,
on,
it was.
and now that it takes away your shot actually. So that foul, they void your first shot, and then you get that second shot, and you would have to knock all those pins down again just to get a clean frame, which we would call a spin.
Boy, we gonna have to do a part two. I mean, so the next time I go, I will have a much better appreciation because I got so many things I want to ask you. One last thing out of curiosity, speaking of
Sure.
numbers, you said for you as a professional bowler, you said I wasn't aware that some balls are heavier, some balls are lighter. I know for young kids and teenagers they are. What is your weight? And
I'm 15 pounds, so I use 15 pounds, which is the second highest weight that they have for bowling balls. The maximum weight is 16, and I believe the lowest would be 8 pounds.
really? Okay,
Yes.
I got more questions, but we're gonna stop right there so
No
you can go
problem.
about your business.
No problem at all.
Okay,
I'm
thank
here
you.
for you.
Listen, everybody, I thank you very, very much. This to me was the most intriguing. Now, you may say they do nothing with numerology, but it's still about numbers. So, for all of you, please hold up. Let me do this again. I need y'all to understand since Jeff is a professional bowler, I wasn't aware of how the scholarship worked in there. I didn't even know you could go to college on a bowling scholarship. So it just tells you don't have to dribble no b-ball or football to get into college to do this. Okay, so if you got a youngster or an adult or whatever the case is out there that's very good with this, you can apply and get a scholarship on bowling. But importantly, I want us to support Jeff through, as we will be his sponsor also. And I know we not big like the big time sponsors, but I want us to show the love that we should have for each other. And so don't tell me when the brother blows up that y'all gave some money and you know you didn't do that. Don't do that, please. So make sure y'all give a cash app to $ Deep House Jeff. I don't care whether it's $1, whether it's a 50 cent, but show the man some love and help him be toward the championship that he desires to be, since he comes from a family of bowlers. Okay, so at least we can say we put our little 2 cents in it, as you call it. All right, everybody. I will get off my horse or whatever they call that thing, or wooden stand. It don't make no difference to me, but I'm very, very serious about that. Please show the kind of love and support Jeff Maisonet, and I wish him all the best. And in the meantime, I'll close my mouth and I'll see you Wednesday.